Hi. Hello. I know it's a little tough to see me behind the hood of this truck, so I'm going to stand in front a little bit because I can't even see my notes from where I am. I'm very excited to be featuring this vehicle today because ever since we started doing trucks here on Test Drive, I knew I wanted to get into something like this, and we've got a really good one here for you today. Our spotlight is on this 2020 Ford F-250 Platinum with the Tremor Off-Road package. We're going to be talking a lot about the Super Duty today, and we're also going to be talking about the Tremor package, the 6.7 liter Power Stroke turbo diesel, and everything else you need to know both about Super Duty pickup trucks and this Tremor package. Now this Super Duty is configured very nicely. Thank you to Ford Canada for going all out and making this super nice here in Quebec. The Ontario Tremor didn't quite have as much fun stuff on it. This is a CrewCab 6 3/4 foot bed, a 160-inch wheelbase with the blue jeans paint, dark Marsala Kingsville antique effect leather with that Power Stroke turbo diesel V8. This also has a 10-speed transmission and the 3.55-to-1 electronic locking rear axle. Now, we do talk about some of this stuff in a future episode of Test Drive. If you're curious to know a little bit more about what makes a Super Duty over the regular F-150, the half-ton truck, we're going to be doing that in a little while, so stay tuned for that. We also talk about what those rear locking axles do, how the axle ratio affects towing, and really what it all means. But today we're looking at this because, first of all, it's a Platinum, which is really nice. It's the second from the top end trim. The Limited doesn't really add too much to it. You just have a slightly different interior leather option, which is unique to the Limited, but the Platinum here, quite nice on the inside. However, the big draw for this truck is this Tremor package. It's $5,120 to get it, available on the F-250 and F-350, and it adds 35-inch off-road tires, 18-inch low-gloss black rims, a unique front spring setup with a 2-inch lift, and on the rear end you actually get the F-350's leaf spring suspension. Overall, this Tremor package more or less creates an F-350 out of it. You have the same ride height, same rear suspension, and overall same gross vehicle weight rating. In fact, because it has the Tremor and the 6.7 liter turbo diesel, chances are you will never see one of these plated here in Quebec. That's because the gross vehicle weight rating for this truck is 10,800 pounds, which is the minimum requirement for this to be considered a commercial heavy-duty truck. Meaning you have to have a full inspection on the vehicle, just like big rigs. It has extra taxes and levies that are put onto it when you go to register and renew your licenses because of that extra gross vehicle weight rating. So people probably aren't going to be buying this. In fact, there's only one other truck exactly configured this way here in Canada. So it's going to be a pretty rare thing to find in Quebec, not so much in Ontario, which is one of the reasons why this vehicle is plated in Ontario instead of here in Quebec. A couple other things you get with the Tremor package. You have a front limited slip differential, performance front and rear shock absorbers, off-road running boards, and the transfer case and fuel tank have a skid plate. Now you can option all of that on its own more or less. You don't get the super special Tremor badge on the back if you just do it individually. So I don't know, I mean, for me personally, it's not my favorite, okay? I'll tell you right now. I don't do a whole lot of off-roading. I don't know how many people actually take their Super Duties off-roading, like hardcore off-roading. And really, I mean, you take a look at the Ram Power Wagon, it's got a cool look to it, really nice name. The Tremor, it's not bad, but I mean, you sacrifice on the ride to get the off-road capabilities. And really, I mean, if you're buying a Super Duty truck to do off-roading, chances are you're just going to go aftermarket anyway. So I'll be curious to see how many Tremors actually end up selling compared to just DIYing it. I suppose the one benefit of going with the factory option Tremor is you get the rock control mode and trail control mode that helps with, obviously, rock crawling and also going down a trail with a set speed limit. So those are things that you get with this Tremor on top of the other little appearance things here and there. Again, we are doing a comparison down the road, going over the Godzilla 7.3 liter gas engine, and we actually take an XLT F-250 on the road and see how that rides and handles. So I'm telling you right now, the ride changes quite a bit because of the Tremor package. So unless you absolutely want to have this, or you really are doing serious off-roading, I'd skip it. Just my 2 cents. Now, I've done a number of pickup trucks over the last couple of years. We've featured several different F-150s since I've started doing test drive. The most comparable would be the 2019 Ford F-150 Platinum with the 3-liter Power Stroke turbo diesel. We are going to be comparing that in another little while. Again, it's truck week here, so that's going to be in a separate episode. We're going to talk about the differences between a heavy-duty pickup truck and the half-ton, and specifically how the diesels would compare and things like that. So stay tuned for that. I want to talk about some of the little things that are different over the F-150s that we've driven. For example, obviously the front end is completely different. You have a much larger front and rear end design of this. A couple exterior things that you don't get on the F-150. Automatic power folding mirrors, whereas on the F-150, they're on your own. You have to just push the button to do it. And the rear license plate lights on this are LED. So, I mean, you're spending a whole lot more for it. It's kind of nice to get those features. So some things you just don't get on this current generation F-150. We will probably see those things added within 2021. And if we think back to when I had the 2019 Ram 2500 heavy-duty Laramie Longhorn with the 6.7 liter Cummins, that would be the most comparable to this because it also uses a 6.7 liter turbo diesel engine. This, though, is a V8. The Cummins is an inline 6. This also produces a staggering amount of power, 475 horsepower, 1,050 pound-feet of torque. And unlike the Ram 2500, where you can only get the medium or low output version of that Cummins engine, you have to go up to the Ram 3500 to be able to option the high output one. Ford just gives you the regular engine. So whether you go with the F-250 or F-350, it produces those numbers. Again, that rear axle ratio will determine how much of it will actually get to the rear wheels. So keep that in mind if you're looking for towing. Because this is a 3.55 to 1 rear axle, our towing capabilities are down to 14,700 pounds. That's a conventional tow. You do get a little bit more if you go with a gooseneck fifth wheel. However, the Tremor package sort of ruins that because we've got the massive tires on here, off-road shocks. It doesn't get as good as towing, so keep that in mind. If you're doing both, you want to be doing towing and off-roading, make sure whatever you're doing is within that 14,700 pound limit. Also, it'll depend too which trim you go with because we've got the Platinum here. There is more weight on the vehicle, so the overall hauling and towing capabilities are a little bit lower with the Platinum. But honestly, I don't get a lot of opportunities to be able to drive a truck like this. They very rarely put them on the press fleet. I don't think we're going to be seeing another Super Duty on the fleet for a while now. So let's get behind the wheel and go over everything else you need to know both about the F-250 Super Duty and whether or not you should be going for the Tremor Off-Road package. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of what this truck has to offer, I just want to mention some of the differences on the inside when it comes to the Super Duty. As I mentioned, we featured a number of F-150s over the years, including another Platinum. So that would be the most comparable. If you really want to see the differences, go back and watch that video first, and then we'll talk about it in here. I'll give you a second. Now should be enough. The major differences that you'll notice on the passenger side, on the F-150, you have a little storage nook. On the Super Duty, it's the same storage nook, but now you have a cover on it that says Super Duty. It's like a second glove box. It's not lockable, but it is a small feature to have. The other thing out back, which is actually pretty useful, there's a lockable storage container underneath the seats. You fold it out, lock it into place. There's even a divider halfway so that you can have different things in there, and then you can lock the seats so they can't be pulled up. That could be great if you have some things that you need to put back there that are valuable that you don't necessarily want somebody to be able to see and steal if you've parked your truck somewhere. So it's a nice little feature to have. With the Ram, you have storage compartments in the floorboards. With this, you've got it underneath the seats. Different ways of doing it, but they all more or less kind of do the same thing. We have a Qi compatible wireless phone charger here. We also see USB-C charging capabilities now on this truck, and the center console here is slightly different because we have a column mounted gear shifter. There is a storage container where the F-150's normal gear shifter would be. That's actually removable storage. You can take out the little tray in there. There's a little place to put your key underneath the rubber mat, but you can also slide over a secondary cup holder into that tray. So you can have up to 4 up here in the front passengers, plus the 2 that are built into the center console for the rear passengers, as well as the 2 cup holders built into the rear armrests. You do have the same storage compartments in the doors, and everything else is pretty much the same from what we've seen. The last small change over the F-150 comes with the gauge cluster computer. As I mentioned, you do have the ability to have auto power folding mirrors on this. There's some other small changes in there, just extra options you don't get on the F-150. Now, our drive modes for this vehicle, we've got eco mode, slippery, deep snow and sand, which they say has to be in 4-wheel drive mode. Rock crawl, again, needs to be in 4-wheel drive, normal, and tow haul. I've been keeping it in eco as much as possible. This diesel does do pretty well, very similar in fact to what we did with the 2019 Ram 2500 Cummins. So if you're looking for fuel economy, that's the way to go. If you're looking for ultimate power out of a 3/4 ton pickup, this is the way to go. But then you're going to really have to compare if you're going up to something like an F-350 or a Ram 3500 to see which one will ultimately be the best for you, because those 2 diesel engines do differ slightly when we're getting up into the top end. But because you can get essentially the same high output numbers with the Ram 3500 in this F-250, then you don't have to go up to the bigger F-350. And again, I know I keep saying that we're going to be doing more videos on this. We will be doing a F-350 dually a little later on this month into September by the time you're watching it. So we'll be talking about that because, again, this vehicle sort of ends up becoming an F-350. The ride height is about 2 inches higher thanks to the Tremor, and that's what you get on an F-350. You've got the F-350's rear leaf springs on here, so you end up getting a lot of that without actually having an F-350. You lose out if you're trying to register it here in Quebec with this engine because of the gross vehicle weight rating on it. Now, personally, I like this diesel. We tested the 7.3 liter Godzilla gas engine. Power delivery on that, nice and smooth. It's a linear power curve. With this, especially if you're ripping it, not that there's a proper sport mode for it, but if you want to be doing some rips in this truck, once you get that boost loaded up, you feel the change in power instantly. I mean, you're going and then whoa, all of a sudden all the torque kicks into overdrive. So if you're looking for a very consistent experience with the truck, then maybe the gas is the way to go. But man, I just love the diesel. I love the way it sounds. I love the pull on it. Oh, and here in Quebec, diesel is about 1 cent more expensive. So if you're doing more city driving, it's not going to work out for you. But if you're on the highway a lot, you're towing, you're hauling, you want that extra fuel economy, you just can't get it with the gas, this is the way to go. So there are some serious reasons to consider this diesel engine, but we'll be talking about that a little later on. My major complaint with this truck has nothing to do with the F-250. This is a really solid truck. It's the Tremor package. I don't do off-roading. I know it's fun to be able to feature it, but for me, I just don't do off-roading, and I don't even have a place that I can take this vehicle to be able to do anything safely with it, so I'm sacrificing the ride on this vehicle to have this package. Plus the ride height, I mean, it is like stepping into behemoth every time. The ride height on this is so high. That's my complaint. I just personally would not get the Tremor. And the other thing too, it doesn't feel special. You take a look at the Raptor. The Raptor originally got the big engine, flared fenders, huge truck, different front end. It was a special vehicle, and it still is today, even though the F-150 Limited gets that same engine and the Lincoln Navigator. the F-150 Raptor is still so cool. It just looks completely different, and you get that street cred. With the Tremor, okay, you have black rims and a little decal on the back, and they say that the front grille is different, but personally I prefer the Lariat black option for the front grille and headlights over this. So it's just an appearance package that doesn't really do much, with the added benefit of all those optional extras you can normally get with the skid plates, the heavier duty shocks, and the off-road oriented suspension. I don't know, let me know in the comments below. Is the Tremor a vehicle that you would actually consider if you're ponying up the cash for it, or not? $5 grand, that's a lot of money that you could put towards gas, or like I said, do it aftermarket.